I don't know about you, but when Dom Toretto said,
ask any racer, any real racer. It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
I couldn't wait to hop in my car and hit the drag strip. We've all seen the Fast and Furious, fallen in love with Brian O'Connor, Dom Toretto, Letty Ortiz, and their hopped up street machines. And with a budget of $38 million, the original Fast and Furious had plenty of moolah to spend on their cars. $2 million to be exact. That's a lot of moolah. From modded Supras and RT Chargers to the flashy Ferrari F355s, they definitely spend some cash. I mean, Toretto's Charger had a blower sticking 2 feet out of the hood. You know what I'm saying? So how much do you think these movie cars sold for? And how much could you buy a similar one for? We've got all the answers for you. And hint, hint, it's a lot of money. So if you're new, my name's Brad Danger. Slam the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. And let's get into the video and dissect the prices of each and every Fast and Furious superstar. Let's go. Brian O'Connor drove a few sweet rides, but most notably these two whips, the 95 Eclipse and the 94 Mark IV Supra. But don't let the terrible 90s decade fool ya. Neither is stock or cheap. But let's start at the beginning. That neon green DSM. It's a green, mean, winning machine. Well, actually, it just mostly spun and lost races. But yeah, it's still an icon. Arguably the most famous Eclipse in the world. O'Connor's GS sold to a museum for over $130,000. Yeah, seems like they weren't too worried about the endangered manifold. And this whip was full of aftermarket modifications. A full body kit, aftermarket wheels, and Sparco racing seats, plus much, much more. And the car that was actually used in the film was a GS. So it was actually powered by the underpowered 420A engine. And then they added a turbocharger, which if you want to build your own 10-second DSM, that's completely the wrong way to go. When you're doing your shopping, you want the GST model, which is powered by the legendary 4G63T, which if you don't know, can be built to insane numbers. And speaking of insanity, this T, one of our best sellers, yeah, you know what this T is. Go snag yours before they run out. And if you want to live out your own DSM drag racing fantasy, get something like this 99 GST for just 3,000 bucks. These front wheel drive 4-pots are actually a blast to drive. It's no wonder that Brian O'Connor had one. But the Mitsu wasn't the only Japanese racer that he had in his garage. Oh no. Because O'Connor, he also had the Supra. Before the Fast and Furious hit the States, the Toyota Supra lived on the fringe of society. But after Brian O'Connor's bright orange A80 Supra slayed the street scene, it became a household staple, posted on walls from coast to coast, and fetching insane prices at the auction block. The Supra is famous for one thing, and I bet you can guess it, the 2JZ GTE. The 3-liter 2J produces 320 horsepower and 315 foot-pounds of torque. In stock, it rockets to 60 miles an hour in a perfectly respectable 5.4 seconds. However, build the bottom end, swap the tiny snails for something a little bit bigger, and sprinkle in some proper fueling, and you'll never be in the rear view mirror again. Brian's Supra actually had a couple performance upgrades under the hood, including a stroker crankshaft, upgraded T66 turbo, and billet aluminum flywheel. When sold as a package, O'Connor's Mark IV Supra went for a whopping $185,000. More than I can afford, pal. Luckily, if you want a stock Mark IV Supra, it won't cost you your life savings. You can find them in the ballpark of roughly $50,000 to $80,000. But of course, with Supras, there's always going to be price outliers. But check out this beauty for about 70 grand. And we can't talk Supra without talking its rival in the final scene, can we? Oh no. There's no replacement for displacement. And if you ask me, which you did because you clicked on this video, Toretto's RT Charger is the most badass looking vehicle in the movie, period. Looking at Dom's RT, I can't help but wonder two things. How much does it cost and what MPGs does this guy get? I mean, can he ever pass a gas station? Considering it has 900 plus horsepower with a blown nitrous V8? Although that number was just for on-screen purposes. Off-screen, Dom's Charger only had about 430 horsepower, which is nothing to sneeze at, but it was a naturally aspirated V8 with an automatic transmission? What? I couldn't believe it either. The Root-style supercharger, it was fake. See for yourself. Regardless, in 2010, the Volo Auto Museum sold the 70 RT Charger for $130,000, which may sound like a lot, but it actually was a steal considering it was appraised for $200K. Now, most of us wouldn't ever dream of spending even $100,000 on an RT Charger, and luckily, we don't have to, because most 70 RT Chargers cost around $70,000, which is still not cheap, but it's one of the meanest looking muscle cars ever built. Now, let's switch gears and let me ask you guys a question. What does Jesse and your cute next door neighbor have in common? Ding, ding, ding. That's easy, a 95 Volkswagen Jetta. I've always wondered, what was Jesse thinking? What was he thinking when he raced Tron's S2K for pink slips? A stock Jetta is cheap, not fast. Yeah, it did have a West Wing wide body kit, 7-spoke Koenigs, and Eibach coilovers, but that engine was producing 115 horsepower, which would take a small miracle to get to 0 to 60 in less than 9 seconds. So besides its movie credentials, Jesse's Jetta really isn't all that unique. But still, in 2016, actor Frankie Muniz sold it at auction for $42,000. That's insane, especially considering you can own this cute little racer for $2,500. It's a huge price appreciation for the people's car, but hey, I guess it's the price you gotta pay to be a star. And our next car was only in a few scenes, like 2 or 3, but Letty's 97 240SX still took a small chunk out of the budget. With a KA24 engine, bright magenta paint, and a big Wang Gang membership, Letty's 240 was not subtle, and neither was she. But as we all know, totally affordable. I mean, at my high school, tons of dudes were driving wannabe drift car 240s. Now, how much was the actual movie car worth? Well, funny you asked, because that Nissan was actually just a rental in the movie. And after they got done shooting, it was returned to the owner, and no one's heard about it since. So we're assuming that it would be worth about what a 97 240SX is worth for street market value. And that's between $7,000 and $10,000. But we do all know that these things are climbing in price every single day, especially for clean ones. So maybe now is the time that you should buy one while we can still afford them. And even without pistons, our next car is one of the most temperamental and unreliable cars on this list. But it's impossible not to admire Toretto's 93 RX-7. If the FD RX-7 didn't cost 2 arms and a leg to maintain, then I would definitely have one of these in my garage. Toretto's 93 RX-7 looked incredible sliding around, racing, and even evading the police. I remember thinking, I gotta get myself one of these. And I bet you did too. And his was pretty beastly, making about 330 horsepower on 15 pounds of boost. And before filming, the rotary was freshly rebuilt, ported, and twin turboed. A Veal side body kit was also installed, and one of my favorite Fast and Furious cars was born. The sound alone from the rotary, oh baby, it's priceless. To me, it sounds like angels singing and Formula One engines humming. So why did Fast and Furious make it sound like this? Who knows? Today, a stylish FD is gonna cost you at least $30K. But if you want a perfectly stock or heavily modified one, get ready to empty your bank account. But it's time to ditch the fancy turbos and Dorito-shaped engines. Because our next car, it's got VTEC, baby. Well, technically, that's right. It's Trans AP1 S2K. In the movie, Trans SR20 swapped Honda S2000 absolutely obliterated Jesse's Jetta. I mean, O'Connor said that there was at least $100,000 in upgrades under that hood. But how much of that was actually Hollywood? Well, for starters, the movie car didn't actually have an SR20. Maybe that's why they say you should never meet your heroes. Yeah, the S2000 was actually powered by its normal 2-liter motor, but it did come with a spicy twist, nitrous oxide, and a Comtech Novi supercharger, which reportedly put down 295 horsepower. So what would you say it costs? This car now sits at the Peterson Automotive Museum, and still to this day, no one knows if it was sold or donated. But let's put on our detective glasses, because a normal AP1 S2K sells between $12,000 and $18,000. And then if you put another $15,000 to $20,000 into bodywork and engine upgrades, bam, you got Trans S2K. So I would put it at roughly $30,000 to $40,000. And then because it's a celebrity, add another 10 to 15%. This next car was actually supposed to be O'Connor's car, but finding duplicates was too costly and too difficult. So instead, Leon got the pleasure of driving the R33 GTR. Now, I've never seen a yellow Skyline in person, but does that make it uber expensive? Probably not, but as we all know, Godzilla ain't cheap. And Leon's GTR has all the usual party tricks. Twin turbo RB26, all-wheel drive, gorgeous looks. And you can catch the Big Bird cruising with the gang in the beginning of the movie, and again, as a lookout during the quarter-mile street races. With the 276 horsepower on tap and 0 to 60 coming in 5.2 seconds, Leon's R33 GTR definitely deserved more of a shot in the limelight. Now, you won't actually be in the Fast and Furious, but you can own an R33 GTR in the USA. But the prices of these iconic superstars are climbing as we speak. So be prepared to spend anywhere from $25,000 to $50,000+. But that's just a small price to pay after you unlock the full potential of the RB26 DET. I'm talking serious power, baby. Now, close your eyes and keep the image of Leon's R33 GTR in your head. Now, don't open them, because if you do, you're gonna see Vince's 99 Maxima. This Nissan has been taken to the point of no return, and then Sparta kicked off. I mean, it had a reversed hinge hood and a shark. Yeah, a shark with lasers coming out of its eyes. So I guess that's pretty neat. I don't know. The producers should have definitely put the money under the hood, not into the body. That 3-liter V6 only makes 190 horsepower, which means 0 to 60 in a not so cool 7 seconds. And thankfully, we didn't have to see that happen in the movie. Now, Vince's Maxima was also a movie rental, but to get yourself into the driver's seat of this sweet car, well, it's actually more than you think. A clean 99 Maxima with high miles is for sale, but it's $4,500. I never said it was pretty or fast. Our next car has more than twice the horsepower, another 2 pistons, and Toretto behind the wheel. If you didn't stick around after the credits, you may have actually missed this car. Behold the 70 Chevelle SS. There are some things that you just don't mess with, and muscle is one of them. No cheesy 90s decals on this bad boy. Painted red with black stripes, Toretto Chevelle SS has a gargantuan 7.4-liter LS6 V8 producing 450 horsepower and 500 foot-pounds of torque. Is it just me, or does this thing pack nearly as much muscle as Vin Diesel? I don't know, but I can't get enough of the sound of this SS. And beware, the loud pedal will take you from 0 to 60 in 5 seconds or less. And Dom Chevelle had headers, coilovers, and Willwood brakes among other upgrades. And I can only imagine it must be a dream to drive. And although this car went up for auction in 2015, no other details were found. So if you're in the market, you know these baddies don't come cheap. And decent examples range from $60,000 to $80,000. But for that money, just look at what you get. And I know some of you can't handle the Chevelle SS and all its displacement. And that's why there's a 94 Acura Integra on this list. It's exactly half the cylinders and a lot less moolah. Mia and Edwin both drove 94 Integras in the Fast and Furious movie. Mia's was blue, and apart from decals and rims, was completely stock. However, Edwin's, it was a GSR. Yeah, it sounds fast, but it only had 170 horsepower, getting it up to highway speeds in 7.2 seconds. But his had an aftermarket body kit, aftermarket cams, and bright yellow hoses under the hood, which, yeah, doesn't sound too expensive to recreate, but in 2014, Edwin's Acura Integra GSR sold for almost $50,000. What? This Integra is only $2,200. Yeah, it's not a GSR like Edwin's, but it's $47,500 cheaper. All right. It's been way too long since our last V8, and this one was only captured in a few scenes, but it is extremely iconic. Yeah, we're talking about Brian's 360 horsepower Ford SVT Lightning. Now, you may not know this, but the SVT Lightning was supposed to play a way bigger role in the original Fast and Furious. And it makes complete sense, because with bright red paint, side exit exhausts, and a top speed of 147 miles per hour, this super truck was definitely worthy of it. But what's it cost? On average, you can find a used SVT Lightning for around $10,000 to $20,000. In fact, we found this Lightning for $17K, and it's got some cool rims. Pro tip, however, the 99 and 2000 made about 20 horsepower less than the 01 through 04 models. So if speed's your goal, purchase the later ones. And with its Triton supercharged V8, this truck can do some of the smokiest burnouts. but it's definitely no fuel sipper. No, for those that want to save a few bucks at the pump, up next is the 4 Civics. We all know that early 90s Hondas are incredibly affordable and reliable, a recipe so good that the Fast and Furious franchise bought 4. Hector drove a 92 Civic hatchback in a few scenes, and the other 3 EJ1s were famously used to hijack a tractor trailer. The 3 EJ1s came with a 1.8 liter spoon engine, which made a little bit more power than stock, but still far from quick. As usual, the Civics were decked out with spoilers, rims, and body kits. But let's be honest, nowadays a lot of Civics have been given the Fast and Furious treatment. You know what I'm talking about. So the movie cars aren't considered really rare or particularly unique, and buying an EJ is cheap and easy. On average, they price out between $500 and a couple $1,000, and with hatchbacks going for about $500 to $1,000 more. So I would assume that 5 to 7K would buy you all 4 of these Civics. No wonder the producers of Fast and Furious looked at these as pretty much disposable units. I bet they didn't think the same about this next car. It's bold, bright, and beautiful. The Ferrari F355 Spider is the supercar that couldn't beat O'Connor's Supra in a drag race. But is the Italian Stallion really more than you can afford, pal? I've always wanted to say that. Maybe back in 2001, but today? No. They've depreciated over 50%. And guess what? It had the highest MSRP of any car in the first movie, $137,000. And not a lot is known about the current whereabouts of that Ferrari, but we do know that it was stock. So other than it getting dusted by an A80 Supra on screen, it's really not all that special. And the average prices today of a 97 F355 is around $70,000, which yes, is expensive, but it is pretty cheap for a Ferrari. And if you decide to buy one of these, just pray that you won't roll up next to a Supra at a stoplight. Okay, now time for the piece de resistance, the grand total. If you were to buy every car in the cast of the first Fast and Furious, it would cost you $393,979. Oh. And that's if you didn't buy the movie versions. Because if you bought all the on-screen superstars, that total becomes $643,979. It's crazy to think that that's almost a quarter of their total automotive budget for the whole movie. And let us know down in the comments which one is your favorite. If you were to own any of the Fast and Furious cars, which one would you own? Let us and all your friends know. Also, if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. And if you disliked it, don't just hit the dislike button once, hit it twice. Really let us know. Also, check out some of our other Ideal content. My name's Brad Danger. It's great to see you guys again, and keep living the ideal lifestyle.